Hello. Okay. A very good afternoon to you all, and I'm happy to see you for this webinar. And it's a very pleasant day, and we've been here working on for a while. And thank you for waiting on for this particular webinar. Hope I'm audible. Can any one of you, if you have any issues, can you raise your hand, or you may just unmute your mic and speak on. If you have any issues with the audio, you can just raise your hand, or you can unmute and you can speak on. So I'd be in a position to understand that you're all there. Hello? Hello? So Rajarajan, am I audible? Can you just let me know whether my voice is proper? Hello? 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 Voice correct? Yes, sir. Okay. So I'll start. Huh? Okay, thank you. So thank you for being here. Just as happy as you are, and hope to start my presentation right away. I'm going to share my screen and have a PowerPoint presentation. Just a quick reference. I'm not going to dwell too much on it. It's just for my own understanding and for my sense of direction. So the topic, as you all know, is riding the digital wave. So I'm going to, for the next 45 minutes, speak on my experiences, mostly in terms of how I was seeing this digital wave as such, and how this transformation has led to a kind of a personal transformation, and how it has been mutual in all aspects. So I'm going to turn the screen on, and I'll share the presentation. So here you go. I hope you are seeing the presentation as such. So we start from the beginning. So this is the presentation that I have made for today. So as you all know, I'm Babu Charles Anas. I'm heading the Soft Skills and Talent Development Program in the Department of Training and Placement, Chennai Institute of Technology. So the title for today's webinar session, I thought it as a series of sessions that might help you and help me learn from one another. So I'm here to learn as much from you as much as what you learn from me. So we'll start with the presentation. This is the title of the webinar that I thought of, Riding the Digital Wave. So I've just mentioned it as a wave, which I'll be explaining later. So it is just trying to revisit teaching learning scenarios, particularly in the context of COVID-19 and post-COVID-19. So the context is digital transformation that has been happening for the past maybe around 10-15 years, and more so rapidly it started with around 2010 onwards, when everyone started speaking about it, and even non-IT professional like me could be, it was part of the discourse, was listening to what was happening around, was reading a lot about what was happening and things like that. So as I mentioned, I'm with the Department of Training and Placement. So something about me. So I consider myself as an influencer. I'm dealing with people. I'm very organic in my approach. I'm basically with the language and sociology training. So I've worked in different parts of the world, and more so in Eritrea, Australia, and also in Oman. So I've set foot in these three countries. I've worked there. I've interacted with students. So 25 years I've been working in empowerment domain. I was not considering myself as only a teacher, but I was considering as, I was seeing myself as an influencer and youth empowerment in youth empowerment domain. So influencer of open mindset. So I believe in open mindset. So I influence people to take up this trajectory when it comes to learning and teaching scenario. I'm very empathetic. I try to understand people's problem and try to respond. So that is something that makes me very organic. I'm very multi-perspective. I try to look situations from a different point of view, and I have my own points of view. And I'm cross-disciplinary. I don't attach myself to one single discipline as such. I keep moving from one discipline to the other, and I try to get the best from each of the disciplines. I'm very critical about it also, not accepting what is given to me as such. I don't believe in knowledge being the final, the truth. Knowledge hides truth. So you have to unravel it layer by layer to see what is really true. And this had helped me, but I'm in search of not only what is true, but also trying to understand myself better in the bargain. So I'm very cosmopolitan, multicultural in the sense like I'm open to cultural viewpoints. I am not closed. I don't say that I'm this and I'm not open for other dialogues. So I like working with people. I like moving around cultures. I'm very global, very trying to see what other cultures have an offer. Very inclusive. For me, no divisions. I see people as people. I'm not. I hope that I am not biased or I don't follow any stereotype as such. So this is something about me you should be knowing, because we are going to talk about a topic that is about transformation. So I thought, okay, you should know a little bit about me. So what is the digital me? Because I thought I should be discussing this, my own experience as a person who's riding or trying to ride the best on the digital wave. Though not belonging to the domain as such, but I'm trying to see in what ways I be able to move on. So LinkedIn is my digital identity. I've started using it the past maybe around 7-8 years. I've been using it intensively. My footprint is on LinkedIn at every point in time, and that has made me a very inclusive, multi-perspective teacher trainer, because most of them are not academicians or researchers per se. I have people who have come to me or people who have been with me, who have known me, most of them as practitioners, who have been in their own ways working in different fields, particularly in digital entrepreneurship or IT or IoT or artificial intelligence. So it's a very eclectic group that I'm in, and I learn so much from them on a day-to-day basis. I learn from my students, and as much as they learn from me. So Just Start is my website, which it's called juststart.live. The moment I was leaving Oman, I thought, okay, I should start something on my own. So I started, and it's my digital mate. It's been with me for quite some time, 2, 3 years, and this is my startup, juststart.live. It's not very functional now because like I'm full time engaged in another type of work, but somehow, relating to what it is, what I'm doing now. So whatever that I have in the start is something that I've derived for my day-to-day work that I am involved at CIT. So I should thank CIT at this juncture for this opportunity, and I'm the chairman who has got a lot of confidence. I should have done that before. And anyway, it's not too very late, but it's something that I need to acknowledge. And so internet, IOE is Internet of Everything. I consider it as my digital twin, kind of my extended consciousness, because I'm here talking to you based on my experience and exposure to Internet of Everything. So that is where I've derived most of my ideas, because like I learned more from IOE than anything that is there in the library or the books. So, and I attribute my personal transformation to the digital transformation that is happening around. That's happening around. So 2010 to 12. So this is the time that the transformation I started experiencing. So I was introduced to ebooks. Of course, as a teacher, you all know. As a student, you might know. As a practitioner, there is so much to learn from different perspectives, different points of view. Learning by doing, though I believed in, I also believed in vast library reading and trying to understand what others' point of view are. So this is when we were transitioning from physical books to ebooks. So as a teacher, as a learner myself, it was very empowering because initially we had so much time running to the library, trying to see if the book is on, and trying to collect that and keep it with us only for 7 days or 2 weeks, and try to return it and keep it in mind that you should return the book, so on and so forth, carry it away. So this was, I'm not saying it was a big complication as such, but I was trying to see it as some kind of bit kind of putting on some pressure on you and affecting the intellectual side of it. Of course, you need to read a book to understand, and you need to read to have a pleasurable reading as such. Nothing like holding a physical book and reading. Of course, I miss it now very much. So ebooks, in fact, opened up world of ideas. So that was the first touch with Internet of Everything, where knowledge was abundantly available, and it was one-click knowledge. So as a teacher, as a trainer, it was very empowering. I was like really amazed by the vastness of the internet that provided access to a version of knowledge. So this was a kind of introduction that I had. So I was in Eritrea around this time. I was talking about post-globalization at the time, not globalization. Globalization, I hope you all would understand. You all would know it is trying to integrate a country's economy to the global economy one side. So travel, people start moving here and there, knowledge transfer is possible, internet connectivity is amazing. So all that is part of globalization. But I was also talking about post-globalization. So 2015, I was talking about hybrid economy. In fact, consciously or unconsciously, I was just trying to talk about an economy that we are in now, or kind of moving into now at this point in time. I'll not get too very much into that, just to give a transition of what I've become of. So the most important thing that happened is 2015. There was a very influential book by Jeremy Rifkin's. It's called The Internet of Things and Zero Marginal Cost Society. It's a very, very influential book. I'll just give you the idea of it in the subsequent slides. It's a very influential book. It shook the very understanding of ITES, the foundation of the internet, and gave a different perspective. So it was kind of a transformation that was happening in me. Around this time, I was in Sydney. So it's a very influential book that, in fact, created so much of an impact. So you should kind of try and get a hold of it and see how he views the society as such. So I was also introduced to millennials. Most of you are millennials and neo-millennial students, those who are born after 1990s. Though some of you are born after 2000, so you're all neo-millennials. Neo-millennials, not generation X, Y, but generation Z. So you're all kind of, why I'm mentioning it here as people belonging to this category or the digital natives. I'm not a digital native, or any of my colleagues who are around 50 or so may not be a digital native. We are not born into a digital world. We were born into a physical kind of, it's a kind of a world which was not virtual, which you are exposed to. So millennials and neo-millennials are those who are, so that's the kind of students that we get now. So I've been getting students who are millennials and neo-millennials for the past 25 years. I've been meeting only young people who belong to this category, except for those who are born before 1995. So this is a major exposure. Then 2016, influenced by Jeremy Rifkin's, I should acknowledge, I developed actually a concept, an idea of social enterprising education through IOE. This is something that I developed based on my understanding of Internet of Everything. At the time, it was Internet of Things. I used to refer it as IoT. So I was just thinking how services could be delivered using IOE, kind of trying to develop open pedagogical methods, open learning, trying to use open resources that are available in IOE, validate it, wean out information from disinformation, and try and create a situation where that could be curated information could be delivered to those who do not have access to such high quality information. So it was a kind of a social enterprise idea, not an enterprise for-profit idea, but more in terms of trying to help the marginalized people who don't have children, particularly children who don't have this access to this. So high quality, open learning, open pedagogical resources delivered to people, not through devices, but try and create scope to handle that information free of cost with a platform that we try and develop for them. So this has translated itself into an MVP. Actually, 2020, I was working with an organization working with children and marginalized sections. So we have instituted two community digital platforms, which I'll be explaining it to you later. That's a minimum viable product that I've developed based on this. 2016, I had gone there to meet my guide. I had applied for my PhD because, in Glasgow Caledonian University, because they had a Ashoka Foundation, and also I had applied it to Yunus Business School of Business and Health. So I thought, okay, that will give me a better mileage. So I applied, and I was there visiting my supervisor. But things didn't turn my favor, though I had a very robust proposal, and I was not able to secure admission because my guide was referring to other guides, because like he thought, okay, maybe there should be someone better who should be able to guide me, or with better expertise. But anyway, that was a very good gesture. I mean, I learned a lot from there, and then 2019, 2016 onwards, I was experimenting with teaching learning pedagogies. I was very much, because like I was exposed to Blackboard Learn. So I was in Oman and around this time, and I was working on working with engineering graduates like you. So undergraduates. So most of them are tech savvy. They were connected all the time to the teacher via Blackboard Learn. So Blackboard and Turnitin was a very important tool that was there. I was exposed to 4 long years. I experimented, and I was the one who was guiding my fellow faculty, and also trying to develop the wikis and other things through Blackboard Learn. So Turnitin, I'm very adept, and Blackboard integration also I was like very adept around this time. And my whole teaching learning was happening through Blackboard Learn, apart from physical classes. So most of the assignments were submitted through Blackboard Learn. Most of the plagiarism check was done through Turnitin. So all this was happening around this time, and Blackboard Learn became a very integral part of teaching learning processes in the university that I was working before. So 2019, I was again promoting my model. So I attended this teaching learning conference, and it was a kind of a precognition where one thing I remember is I was just telling my fellow colleagues who were there for the conference, I was just telling them that education should move beyond the portals of the university or the college or the institution. So I was referring around that time, massive open online courses. I was just trying to see MOOCs as a very important, not a competitor, very important challenge of the time to physical classrooms, and online classroom was just beginning, and most of us were not trying to catch up to it. We were just in the first phase of trying to learn what it is and trying to get to use, but we were quickly learning, and we have learned quickly anyway. So MOOCs is one thing that I'll be referring to later. So 2019, I've become immersed so much that I got a certificate in digital business from Lund University, Sweden, and I was also wrote a book, chapter, actually revisiting entrepreneurship in the context of digital economy. Sorry, this should be digital. Give me a second. Okay. Context of digital. So main theme of this lecture, I propose this idea, which has been already there, existing. We all know that. I also, I'm very convinced that transformation is not linear. So I say this based on the tagline of CIT also, because transformation has been a key word for the past 10-20 years, post-millennium. So transformation is something that everybody is talking about, and CIT is talking about transforming lives, which becomes a very major tagline. And I'm very happy that it coincides with what we all understand as transformation. So it's not very linear. It has got properties of a wave. That's how I see it. It has got the amplitude, where from the equilibrium it moves up and down, and it has got its amplitude. There are different levels of movement that is happening. Then there's a wavelength. There is a distance between wave crest and another wave crest, and there is a lot of frequency. Of course, I'm not a physicist, I'm not a STEM graduate, so I leave it to you for interpretation. So whatever that I have understood, I'm just trying to say. So it has got properties of wave. Transformation is wave-like. It's got its own amplitude, wavelength, and frequency. And here I go with the with a quote. It's an excerpt from Jeremy Rifkin's book. It's in the first page itself. So I'm just trying to pin it down to what I see as transformation now. So there's a new economic paradigm. So that's a big paradigm, is a shift. It's a kind of set of concepts and ideas, or set of key themes that guides a particular history in time, and particular time in history. Sorry. So economic paradigm is the collaborative commons. So there is more of collaboration. You would have come across this word. Teachers have come across this. Industrialists have come across. Corporates have come across this. Students have come. Collaboration is the name of the game now. It's a team. Collaborative commons, which means it doesn't mean only those who are there in corporates or education institutions, or in companies, or in industries, or in healthcare. It means that even a very normal person, a lay person from the community, can contribute to this common idea that is being developed. So which I'll be going to later when I speak about open pedagogy. So collaborative commons is rising in its wake that will transform our way of life. It's transforming our way of life. Previously, if I need to have a photo for a brochure, I'll have to wait for permission. But it's not so now. If you need to have an image, you just go to the Creative Commons website and say you get the picture that you want. But only thing is, you need to acknowledge. So there are so many ways of getting copyrighted material, but with pressure to acknowledge it, of course. So you have collaborative commons, people collaborating from different parts of the world, trying to putting it in a repository, and if you need, you can get acknowledgement. You acknowledge them and get the permission, and you do it. Just like the way you acknowledge an author or a citation that you have. But here, it is all available free of cost. You just can get that thing done. This is my understanding of collaborative commons. A very simple example of what it is. But it's not only that. I'm not reducing it only to this, but it's also a vast level of opening up, particularly in the academic space. So this is what Jeremy calls it as a hybrid economy. Of course, it's been almost 10 years since the book has been released, and it's a hybrid economy that we are trying to see. It's no more kind of that capitalist kind of the power is with the common people also. The knowledge worker is translating his or her knowledge to people who are there in the middle of the problems. That's what IT guys are doing. That's what IoT people are doing, trying to get solutions for common man's problem, and trying to transfer knowledge even to the layperson that is there available. And there is knowledge transfer happening from the layperson to the corporates, or even to people who are on the higher ranks of the ladder. And everything is like based on mutual consent, and it's sharing is possible. So there is a vast amount of knowledge that's available in the internet. That's what I'm trying to tell you. So there's a sudden emergence of the new normal. So we are all acknowledging the new normal. We are adapting, trying to adapt it. So I'm just asking the question, where did we go from here? So it started 1 year before we started, the new normal has started. So where did we go from? So there was closures, impacted institutions. But one good thing happened is digital acceleration happened. It was no more digital transformation, but more of digital acceleration. And virtual classrooms became a kind of a norm. So I was working in the community around this time. I was traveling, and during lockdown period, I was not traveling, but I was in touch with my beneficiaries, with children over phone and also by Skype. So virtual classrooms were rolling out until up till the time that I had been there. Online classes were not reaching out to people in the government schools. Particularly, government aided had the scope to bring in, but the government school children only had the scope to go to uh, the TV and watch Kalvi Tolakachi or whatever. I mean, Kalvi Tolakachi or any other channel that promotes education as such. So they were denied of this virtual classroom. Apart from that, the affluent people who had money, they didn't have even those who didn't have the wherewithal didn't even have the device. There were no devices available except for one or two here and there. So they were denied of education, but those affluent class had access to devices and also had access to online classrooms as such. So learn from home became like just like the work from home, learn from home became a very important thing. MOOCs became a very important. There was a kind of a resurgent of MOOCs. It was gradually surfacing. It was moving. I mean, it was kind of moving down, and sudden resurgent around COVID-19 situation. So we were discussing about proctored assessments. We were discussing about synchronous, asynchronous work. Give me a minute, please. Okay, just sorry, I have to. So we were talking about proctored assessments. Proctored, that's what students are involved now. That's what we are trying to do. Develop online assessments. So synchronous, asynchronous, cohorts based. It was cohort based. It was group based previously. It is now self based, individual learners. All these changes have happened around this time, around COVID-19, and we teachers, trainers are catching up to it also at this point in time. But what's happening to this MOOC? I told you it was resurgent. It was resurging, resurfacing, becoming more and more popular and powerful, which I'll give you an idea in the next slide. MOOCs concentrated among the affluent. So when initially it was started, it's a study made by MIT in collaboration with Harvard and EDX. MOOCs, actually EDX is MIT Harvard backed, very important MOOC platform. So it concentrated among the affluent, those who could afford, who could access devices, who had internet connectivity could do it, but not like people, ordinary people, ordinary middle class who didn't have the awareness or didn't have the wherewithal or didn't have the idea of what MOOC is and all that. So it was initially targeting the affluent, but with low completion rates. Obviously, people were not focusing on that. Vast majority never returned after the first year. So there was absolutely a kind of plummeting of MOOCs. So they were moving down, deep down, and trying to come up. So here in the slide you see, so you see 2019, I'm sorry if it is not very clear, but anyway, I'll read it out to you. Coursera had 8 million users, registered users, or in 2020, around COVID time, you had 20 million who had joined. But I don't know whether they have completed the course or they returned back to it or not. I have a few courses done through Coursera, but I also have a few courses that I'm aspiring to do, but not sure. Okay, totally 65 million people registered. So EDX had 5 million, then moved on to 8 million, now 32 million. Future Learn and all that. 25 to 30% increase between March and end of July, particularly in the MOOCs platform. So you find a remarkable, that was just plummeting. It was moving down. Then you find 25 to 30% increase, moving up. So Coursera had 35 million new enrollments around this time. So sources Class Central report. So this is the situation that we are in now. So that's a resurgence of online education. So we are riding on that wave actually. We are either participating. Most of the students whom I talk to whom I asked whether what they were doing around lockdown period. Not most, I would say around a significant majority, maybe 1/3 of them. I haven't looked into the details as such. I don't have the data as such, but they've been working on. They have been. Most of them say, "I've been doing this. I've been doing that. I've been doing this. Particularly among the first years whom I've met with, spoken to, and talked to them, and also the fourth year, final years too. Kind of during lockdown period, they try to get on. Maybe this is a separate study that we need to do as an institution. Online education is around $350 billion in 2050. Sorry, I missed out the 2050 here. So in another 30 years, it's worth 350 billion. So I'm not sure what kind of a hybrid economy it's going to create, what kind of a collaborative common it's going to create. And there's some good news that I mentioned. Retention of information is 3 to 6 times more than classroom education, it seems. Particularly among children, not among adult learners. 3 to 6 times more. There is also scope of study for us. See how online classrooms help students retain information. Maybe I spoke to a student, he was very happy that he's going to improve his GPA. I asked him, how come in your 6th semester you are able to improve your GPA? So most of the questions I might get as MCQ. I'm very, very fond of MCQ questions type, and I'm sure I'll click. I'm good at completing that, and I should be able to improve my GPA. Maybe even to the point of 0.5, and I was surprised. So 40 to 60% less time to learn. This also we need to do a study in our own teaching learning scenario and see how it is going to be helping us. So it's also moving from rote-based learning to developing 21st century skills like critical thinking and adaptability. So it's not rote-based where they learn theories, come back and reproduce, write, write, and all that. Proctored assessments create a different kind of a pressure. I've gone through a proctored assessment for my PhD, of course, and it's going to create a different kind of a situation. So disadvantaged groups have issues catching up. So here, as I mentioned, children or adults, even adolescents and adults from disadvantaged backgrounds, they don't have access to devices. I'll come to that later. I'm not referring to our cohort as such, but I'm just referring to the wider level national situation as such. So here is a problem. They don't have their first generation learners to catch up to online learning. I'm saying first generation online learning, and they have troubles in accessing online content. At the same time, using a device of their choice. Most often, it's their father who goes to work, who comes back in the evening and gives the device and they access. So there are so many issues here. So let's even among people who are not below the poverty line. I'm just trying to see even the lower middle class cohorts that we at times meet. So this NSO report on the digital divide. I was exploring a lot of literature for my PhD, and instantly my PhD is also on this line, and it's based on my reading of what is happening around. So NSO report: only 1 in 10 households in India have computers. So we are talking about digital inclusion. We are talking about bridging the digital divide. We are talking about online teaching, online learning. But many of them don't have access to computers. But anyway, our cohorts are different. I'm not referring only to that. I'm just talking about the general scenario. In Tamil Nadu, internet penetration is just 20%, and the same in Karnataka also, less than 20%. So Tamil Nadu and Karnataka are considered to be the IT hubs, but still, it's a problem. Again, the major problem is basic digital literacy among critical age group is 15 to 99. It's just 40%. So adolescent, adult fall in this category. It's just 40%. Digital literacy is trying to uh, use the device or having access and knowing how to use and gaining out of it, profiting out of it, generating digital capital out of it. So that's what I mean digital literacy, digital capital. So you need to develop that capital, know how to use it. It's not only accumulating devices, but knowing how to use it and how that could be translated into profit. So that is something that is happening. 42% of internet-enabled homes are in the cities. So mostly in the cities. So no wonder most of our cohort have access. In rural households, only 15 have access. So if our students are from rural households, it's a default given that they may not have Wi-Fi router through which they access the internet, or maybe they might have use a hotspot. Most of them whom I talk to, I ask them, they say I'm using a hotspot, Tetri. So even in city spaces. So this is something that we have to look at when it comes to teaching learning. India has got about 630 million internet subscribers. That's quite a large amount. So all these are wave-like. It's contradictory. Some of the information has happened before, and some of the information that I'm saying has happened recently. So the wave has been moving like this and this. The frequency, maybe the frequency is shrinking, but the wave was moving. So it's a 2019 report and TRI report, 630 million internet subscribers. Second largest in the world. So the 630 million is around the size of UK, US, Russia, South Africa and put together. So for everyone having internet, at least one has no access. So what has happened around this time is there is a lot of scope for creating content. So as institutions, there is a lot of scope for creating proper content, very curated proper content as such. Then there is something that has come up in teaching learning scenario. I'll be closing the session by 3:50, 10 minutes for interaction. I thought I'll close it by 3:45, but anyway, I'm sorry about that. So open pedagogical approaches. That is something, pedagogy is teaching learning situation. So as I mentioned, when it comes to Internet of Everything, it is open, and there's a lot of knowledge. So like what I say, digital transformation is not equal to disinformation. So as a teacher, as a learner, we should be developing a literacy that helps us identify information from disinformation. I'll give you one example. People were talking about each one giving different stories about lockdown. Saying that after 8, someone says there will be lockdown, after 7, there will be lockdown. I just asked them, where did they get their information from? They say, no, WhatsApp group it is circulating. I said, who's an authority trying to say this in a WhatsApp group and in a social media, and you're taking that for real? So this is one fine example for disinformation. So as teachers, I should be, and as learners, one should be able to say what is information and what is disinformation. So that is where you search for truth. That is where you look for evidence. That is where truth unravels truth, and you keep moving. And Internet of Everything provides you a lot of scope for that, provides me scope for that. So open pedagogy is that, trying to learn from people who are experiencing that knowledge that we develop. people who are capable of using that knowledge that we develop. So we talk about user experience, we talk about use cases in IT. So all that is kind of trying to have this open pedagogical approach where we reach out to people who are using the very knowledge that we are trying to provide them and see how it works, and they respond and they say their version of it, they say their experiences which feeds into our knowledge framework, and we try to tweak in our theory so that it's open-ended. It's kind of a knowledge generated at different levels, not generated by one single authority as such. So teacher learners has to develop critical pedagogy. So two more slides to go, and I'm done. So need to robo-proof oneself in the higher education context. Artificial intelligence is not cure-all, solve-all. There is something more to it. That's what I keep saying. Though I'm an ardent advocate of digital transformation, I also believe in human interface, because one thing that makes us different from a robot is that we are creative. We approach problems from based on our learning, our experience. Day to day, each experience is unique. There are some 1.2 billion people in India. Each one's experience is different. And we can't feed in all the experience and emotion into a robot to think like the way a normal human being in India would think like. So this is my contention. But anyway, I'm for artificial intelligence. It has got a very different scope. But when it comes to learning, it has got different scope altogether. It's not like, I believe in proctored assessments, but I don't believe in unmanned correction of paper or whatever it is. Because there is a lot of things that is there. Even your bias involves a lot of human interface there, stereotyping. Because that's again, though it may be considered as very objective, certain room for our subjectivity should be there in teaching learning situation. That's what I contend. So learning is to help solve complex problems, and learning is for life. So next session I'll be discussing about Joseph Ward, MIT professor, who has written a book called Robo-Proof in Higher Education, Robo-Proofing higher Education. So that is a very important book that you should also be reading. So it gives an idea as to how we become robo-proof to situations. So riding the digital wave was riding with confidence. I'm trying to come first, complete it on time so that you have enough time to ask questions. Riding with confidence. So have capacities to augment organic participation. That's what I'm trying to say. I've had both online and offline direct experiences. I found the direct contact was more organic, and I could see a lot of participation and outcomes. So that is something that I can very confidently say at this point in time. But anyway, situations are such that we are made to go online. I'm with that. I'm not against that. Empathy is something that you should have. I should have. Try and see the other person's point of view from his or her point of view, or wearing other person's shoes and seeing it from their point of view. So this augment human interface in critical areas. This is something that we need to develop. So I'm doing it, and I'm just suggesting it to you also, leaving it for an open discussion. Disruptive innovations have reduced barriers to entry, making the ride all the more successful. So I would say, whatever disruptive innovations that have happened, we talk about disruptive transformation is about that. And disruptive innovation is also a wave-like quality. Sometimes it takes us high, sometimes it takes us low. Like the MOOCs that I was saying, like it took us high and that it's come down and then it's taking us high. And it's going to be a new normal in future. In 2050, it's going to be a $350 billion industry. So what happens to physical spaces? I'm still wondering. So what happens to teaching? Maybe in future 2050, if I live to see the time, I'm just trying to wonder. I want to live to see the time. Yes, definitely. Yes, I want to live up to 100 and work up to 75. So anyway, so thank you very much. And I'm leaving it for questions. It's exactly 3:50, 5 minutes more than what it is. So I can go up till 4:05 or 4:10 if the questions are very engaging. And I would want you to raise questions at this point in time. I'm turning the screen share off, and if you would want to refer to the slide, you just let me know. I should be able to. Get the slide on. Yes. Questions. I'm just asking for. So anyone who has got a question, you guys. I hope my session was clear. So I was trying to make it very simple. Um, that's why I thought I should start with my own experience. This is my point of view, and I leave it to you. You may contest. You may. Yes, you may also put the question here on the chat. I can see it. Okay, I'll just give you a code. Yes. There's a poll. Do you believe in open learning? So, open learning, open pedagogy is also trying to ride on the wave, trying to see in what ways you can make use of the Internet of Everything and search and find what is evidence based and glean out information from misinformation and make the best use of it for your stakeholders. Particularly here, it is students and academic staff and researchers in higher education situations. Okay, I'm just waiting for a question from your end. If you have any comment or even a conflict, even if you disagree, you may say that, no problem. You can just be yourself. You can give your feedback if you want to. Absolutely no problem. And 45 minutes, I go by the theory that 45 minutes is where your attention span is intact. So you had everything proper and you got everything proper. Now it's time for you to raise questions. So silence means that I'm I've made everything very clear. There are no doubts, or that maybe you are really reflecting on the new information that you have been exposed to, and not able to really find scope for raising a clarification. But I don't really believe in this question and answer towards the end, because most of the times, even when I'm there as an audience, I may not be able to raise a question after completing a session, after listening to a session. So I don't see it as a very it's a kind of a routine, a formal way of closing a session. So if you have any feedback, you can write, and you can just try to raise this in a WhatsApp group if you have an idea. It's actually a new reflection, particularly in higher education scenario. That far, I believe in that, because like I'm in touch with what's happening in the higher education scenario. What is happening? People, in the name of digital transformation, are relying completely on a system, or is it that they are also engaging a balanced human interface that is required? Because so that is something that we need to work on. So I'm also keen on HCI, human computer interface, that area of research. So anyone who's got any insights in that, you can collaborate for the research that I may be also part of. We can think of. So I'm also working on digital capital research, trying to further elaborate on this concept of digital capital that is developed. And I'm in touch with my collaborator in the UK, Massimo Ragnada. I've taken permission from him to use this questionnaire, try and modify it to Indian terrain. So that is one area that I'm very keenly working at this point in time. It's a collaborative research. And in principle, we not got into any agreement, but only thing is he said, okay, you may use it, and let me know how the results are, and we'll try to take it further. He's got a lot of books on digital capital, digital divide, so on and so forth. Very sometimes I wouldn't say it is kind of we are not very clear about the digital divide. It is persistent. It's there. We just because we have access to devices, we think all over the world, all over the country, people might have access to information. And it's not so. It's not so. And digital divide has further divided people, particularly people who don't have very critical digital capital or digital literacy, getting hooked onto algorithms, and allowing algorithms to drive their lives, and ending up losing what they have. And we have enough cases of young men getting into troubles, but that's the flip side of the transformation. So I'm just trying to develop critical literacy tools to help them cope better, cultivate their digital capital, and use it for using it. Even top people who lose in the share market, even well-educated individuals, there is algorithmic trading that is happening. They just don't know when to enter exit, and algorithms play the game. Alas, finished. So my area of research is trying to unravel the truth behind disinformation and develop critical digital literacies among those who don't have access to even digital capital as such, and cultivate that capital in them for to use for common good. Is what my area of research is. And I should say I'm signing off. Thank you very much, and thanks for a lot of questions that you asked me. I'm really very happy answering all the questions. Thank you very much. Nice meeting you all, and have a nice day. We'll meet up some other time. Thank you very much. Hope you all enjoyed the session as such. Thank you. And this is Babu Charles signing off.